So, welcome within my project, which is called Ultimum Deliciae. It's a textile story stating intimacy as luxury since 2020. As we know, in 2020, the pandemic arrived in all the world lives with no differentiation between poor people or rich people, between culture differences. Everyone was affected, and it gathered all around the weakness and the beauty of our humanity. So I decided to make a conceptual and sensitive project around that. And I wanted to highlight the scarcity of intimacy, which is a scarcity we never knew, never met before. But indeed, social interaction became a luxury in 2020. Intimacy became a pillar that we thought was not really important before, but suddenly we had to reach the evidence, I would say. So I made a 2-minute video mapping dancer's body to also understand physically how intimacy works, what are the different layers of intimacy, and also how do I want to visualize it in the body. So what I decided to do is to ask this question: how can soft material, the fences for intimacy by definition, be incorporated self-sanitizing property to repair social bounding? As some of you may know, copper, a metal which is part of one of the primary elements of our natural life and ecosystems, as a natural remedy to repair intimacy in a way, because it's naturally antiviral. So how to incorporate it in soft materials? How can it repair intimacy? And what use do we want to make out of it? Because it's a very rare resource. So how can copper repair social bounding? I started my project with an aim: make a statemental knitting more than a product knitting, by stating the luxury of human warmth. So the idea was to make a pattern that could visualize that through a clothing as a final product that would repair human interactions. The need technically was to make 2-ply copper metal yarn in some areas, 1-ply copper metal yarns in some other, and then rich organic yarn, ideally copper infused. This was a technical challenge because copper plating on textile is not so easy, but we found solution. The only problem was more the malleability of copper, and we had a lot of breakage, so I had to bounce and find new solutions, which was great because I reached these back knits that I love very much. So what I did to get a qualitative gradient to represent human warmth levels is removing needles in the back of my knit to get a gradient not from color change, but from needle removing. You can see it in the next picture. So what happens here is that the cotton is slowly merging in the copper, and by removing the needles in the bottom, I could represent this human warmth navigating through the body. What I also liked very much is that it gives a really human, almost skin-like. The little dots start looking like pores. And there we arrive to intimacy as a pillar. I'd like to highlight on this image that the aim of the project was not to make a long series knitting product, but to create an image for people to contemplate the beauty of intimacy and how the pandemics deprived us from it, but also to put the highlight that textiles are a very qualitative tool, and it should be considered as such. It's not only a graphical banner. Textile have feelings. It's like a second skin, and I found this project was also a great opportunity to remind people that textile is not only a graphical banner, but also a sensitive layer. I will just briefly really briefly conclude, because I stretched the project on a more industrial knitting layer, because I wanted from my research to visualize sanitizing soft surfaces in textile more as a technical question. So here are the latest samples I could do. And I think we can finish here. Let's all remind from this pandemic experience the value of intimacy. And thank you to all my collaborators, and thank you for everyone of the textile community for listening.
Thank you, Anne.